Ready? Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Lakewood City Council agenda for this Monday, June 3rd, 2024. Fantastic to see all of you here. It's great to have a full audience, and welcome to those of you who are dialing in or zooming in from home. It's a pleasure to see all of you tonight in this atypical rainy Lakewood evening. We normally mandate by proclamation sun and sunshine, so it's a little unusual tonight. So, Madam Clerk, if you'd please call the roll.
Councilmember Bell.
Here.
Councilmember Boki.
Here.
Councilmember Brandstetter was joining us virtual. He is not yet in attendance. Councilmember Lauricella.
Here.
Councilmember Pearson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Moss has been excused, and Mayor Whalen.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Well, thank you very much. Now, if you'd please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, by the looks of it in the audience, you are here for many of the same reasons we are all here, and that's to celebrate great things and great people that are both living in the city of Lakewood and impacted by its various policies. Tonight, we're pleased to initially present a proclamation recognizing Juneteenth, National Freedom Day. And for this, I'd like to call on our friends from St. Joseph, St. John Episcopal Church. All the representatives can join Councilmember Patty Bell at the podium, and she will present the proclamation, and we will follow by a photograph. We always have a nice photograph for all of you present. So feel free to, those of you who'd like to join Ms. Bell at the dais.
Good. Just go ahead and you can stand here or here, wherever you would like. Thank you, everybody, for coming. So this is a great honor to read this proclamation today, and I'll go ahead and start. So whereas Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration commemorating the end of slavery in the United States, and whereas historically, Juneteenth was widely celebrated in the African American community as Emancipation Day, commemorating the day in 1865 when a Union Army general arrived in Galveston, Texas, to share the news that the Civil War had ended and to announce the enslaved African Americans living there were free. And whereas in recent years, awareness of the significance of this date for our nation's African American and Black communities has become more widespread, resulting in Juneteenth becoming a recognized state and federal holiday. And whereas Juneteenth reminds us of the horrors of our country's past, commemorates African American freedom, acknowledges the resilience and determination of African Americans who have faced injustices in our society, and pays homage to those who paved the road to freedom in America. And whereas Juneteenth is the day to recognize and honor the contributions of African Americans in our city, state, and country, and whereas now is a time to reflect on the progress that must continue to ensure that all have equal access and opportunity to participate fully in our society, and whereas Juneteenth is marked with celebrations, picnics, and family gatherings, and is a time for reflection and rejoicing, assessment, self-improvement, and planning. And whereas people of all races, nationalities, and religions are joining hands to acknowledge a period in our history that shaped and continues to influence our society today. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Lakewood City Council does hereby acknowledge June 19th, 2024 as Juneteenth National Freedom Day, and urges residents to come together to celebrate community and fellowship by attending the Juneteenth celebration hosted by St. Joseph St. John Episcopal Church and the City of Lakewood, Saturday, June 15th, 2024, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Lakewood City Hall. Proclaim this day of June, this third day of June, 2024, Mayor Jason Whalen and the Lakewood City Council. So, thank you. I am going to hand the proclamation to whomever, and then I would love it if one of you could speak.
To hand to our senior warden, Jenny.
No, for all of us. There you go.
Yeah.
So whoever would like to speak.
Well, I'm Johnny Williams. I'm a member of St. Joseph, St. John's Episcopal Church. And I'm just going to repeat some of what Lady had just said. We are inviting everyone to our celebration on the 15th of June from 3 to 5 p.m. here at City Hall. You all are welcome. Our theme is We Are Family. So please join us. There will be lots of refreshments and dancing and speeches. Thank you.
If you would all join us up front, we'll take a photo.
They're taking a picture of front.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
Next, we have a proclamation recognizing the month of June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month. And for this, I'd like to have Aaron Miracle, the drop-in coordinator with Oasis Youth Center, join Councilmember Treston Lauricella at the podium to receive the proclamation. And a shout out to our own Emergency Food Network Executive Director, Michelle Douglas. Welcome.
All right, well, first, welcome to all of you. Thanks for coming out. And I'm going to read this proclamation on behalf of City Council. So, whereas the City of Lakewood supports the rights of every resident to experience equality and freedom from discrimination, and whereas all people have the right to be treated fairly on the basis of their value as human beings, regardless of age, gender identity, race, skin color, religion, marital status, national origin, sexual orientation, or disability, and whereas the City of Lakewood accepts and welcomes people of all backgrounds and believes a diverse population leads to a more vibrant community, and whereas lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ+ communities contribute to the cultural, civic, and economic successes of the city, and whereas as our society learns to embrace evolving definitions of sexuality and gender, we acknowledge how the need for education and awareness remains vital to end discrimination and prejudice. And whereas Pride is a time to recall the trials the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer communities have endured, and to rejoice in the triumphs of trailblazing individuals who have bravely fought and continue to fight for full equality. And whereas Pride is both a jubilant communal celebration of visibility and a personal celebration of self-worth and dignity, now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Lakewood City Council does hereby designate the month of June 2024 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Plus Pride Month, and encourages all residents to recognize the valuable contributions and achievements of the LGBTQ+ community, to reflect on the ongoing struggle for equality members of this community face, and to reaffirm our commitment against discrimination and injustice. Declared this third day of June 2024 by Mayor Whalen and our City Council.
This proclamation means something extra special to us. This will be coming up on our 40th year as an organization, and it's our first year as an independent nonprofit. So thank you for taking the time to recognize us and all of the work that the youth and the staff and volunteers put in to make Oasis a safer space. We're so happy that we get to serve youth from all over, and that we have our satellite location that meets weekly in Lakewood. It's also very meaningful because of all of the discrimination and policy changes and laws that are trying to be passed to try and restrict the rights specifically of trans youth. And Lakewood's standing out as a beacon to say, we are a welcoming place. We want you here. You're valued here. And so thank you for using your voice to support queer youth.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. Come on up, we'll do a photograph here. Okay, next we have a proclamation recognizing the month of June as Ride Transit Month. So for this, I'd like to have our CEO, Mike Griffiths from Pierce Transit, join me at the dais to receive the proclamation. Well, I am especially pleased tonight to present this proclamation, not only as the mayor here for the city of Lakewood, but also the designated council member who serves on the Pierce Transit Commission, working with the CEO, Mr. Griffiths here, to make sure that transit is even more readily accessible and available, and not just to us older folks here sitting on the dais, but also to all residents, including youth. And so we've made great strides in that direction. Whereas the city of Lakewood is served by two transit agencies, Pierce Transit and Sound Transit, that both provide public transportation via bus, commuter, or light rail, shuttle, paratransit, ride share, and a runner van. And whereas in 2023, Pierce Transit provided 6.8 million passenger trips in Pierce County alone. And whereas 52% of Pierce Transit riders do not own a personal vehicle, and 67% have an annual income under $35,000. And whereas Move Ahead Washington, the transformative legislative transportation package passed in 2022, invests more than $3 billion in transit programs and projects, including the first in the nation Youth Ride Free program, which provides zero-cost fare to all individuals 18 years and younger. And whereas in 2024, Pierce Transit launched the Stream commuter line, providing enhanced peak bus service between Spanaway and the Tacoma Dome station, and established another runner zone, an on-demand microtransit service for a total of 6 runner zones within Pierce County. And whereas transit in Washington today reduces 371,000 metric tons of CO2 emissions per year, if all single vehicle drivers were to shift to transit, there would be a savings of 130,000 metric tons of CO2 emissions per year, almost equal to 28,272 passenger vehicles driven annually. So you youth are part of the solution by taking transit. Whereas research shows that 1 in 4 adults in the United States experiences transportation insecurity, suggesting that millions of Washingtonians may not be able to move from place to place in a safe or timely manner because they lack the resources necessary for transportation. And nearly 25% of Washingtonians cannot or do not drive, resulting in a likely reliance on public transportation. And whereas transit provides essential trips and essential jobs for people of color and low-income individuals, among urban residents, Black, Latino, and foreign-born residents are more likely to take public transit. And whereas greater transit use is associated with higher levels of physical activity, which is associated with lower health risks and better health outcomes for our community. And whereas the city of Lakewood appreciates Pierce Transit's close work with local jurisdictions, especially here in the city of Lakewood, where we collect all sorts of tax from Pierce Transit. Is that right, Mr. Griffiths? That's correct. Including with planners and staff to incorporate local growth patterns into future transit planning, to increase transit opportunities for all of our residents. And for that, we are very proud. Now, therefore, the Lakewood City Council does hereby designate the month of June 2024 as Ride Transit Month here in the city of Lakewood. And we encourage residents to observe the month with appropriate events and activities to promote public transportation. And might I add, try it out. If you haven't done it before, especially if you're a youth, try it. The cost is free for those of you 18 years and under. And for those of you who are a little older than that, try it out. It's a great service. Proclaim this 3rd day of June 2024. Jason Whalen and all of the city council members present, we wish you a fabulous Ride Transit Month. Mr. Griffiths. Here you go. We'll get a photograph for that, but here's your proclamation and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Whalen, and thank you, City Council, for passing this proclamation and for recognizing how important transit is to this community. In 2023, Pierce Transit provided 6.8 million local transit rides for our neighbors, getting them to jobs, school, shopping, social gatherings, medical appointments, and other critical destinations. For many people, transit is simply a lifeline. More than 1/3 of Pierce Transit customers have a household income of less than $30,000, and more than half do not own a vehicle. Transit is an effective equity tool, giving our neighbors access to jobs, education, and other opportunities. Transit also contributes to a healthy planet and reduce congestion, and it helps build our economy, getting people to their jobs every day. At Pierce Transit, we're working to provide not only traditional transit services, but new types of rides that meets people's changing transportation needs. A couple examples are our new on-demand runner services and Stream Community Line, the South Sound's first high-capacity transit line. We were also proud to implement a program for youth where young people age 18 and under can ride free. In the first quarter of this year, we provided over 250,000 rides to the youth in Pierce County. And last year, we implemented Orca Lift, a reduced fare program for low-income adults. These are just a few examples of how Pierce Transit is working to meet the needs of everyone in our community in an equitable and innovative way. Thank you again for recognizing Ride Transit Month and the importance of the services we and other transit providers across the country offer to the community. We're grateful for your support, so thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Griffiths. Great to see you. And it's always a wonderful thing to have one of our own businesses located in the great city of Lakewood to receive a proclamation tonight. So thanks again. Say hi to the staff. Next, we're pleased to present the 2024 Washington Recreation and Parks Association Spotlight Award for the development and renovation of Springbrook Park. And for this, I believe Stacy Redding is going to join me at the podium tonight. Stacy is our Parks Development Project Manager who is responsible for much of the great grant work that leads to the culmination of these projects. So. It's always a wonderful occasion when we can celebrate good work and success here in the city of Lakewood. And fortunate for those of us on the council, it is a frequent occurrence because we have incredible staff that work here at the city of Lakewood. Tonight, we are celebrating the Washington Recreation and Parks Association Spotlight Award. The city of Lakewood received the 2024 Spotlight Award from WRPA, the Washington Recreation and Parks Association, specifically for the development and renovation of Springbrook Park. The Spotlight Award highlights excellence and achievement in the field of parks and recreation by honoring the efforts of public agencies for projects that display the highest standards in design, development, and renovation of parks and recreation spaces. Springbrook Park is a special park and a special area that the city worked with the community to plan for in the renovation of that park. Improvements included development of a loop trail system, basketball courts, a bike pump track, a dog park, a community garden, and shoreline restoration along Clover Creek. Previous improvements included park expansion, a pedestrian bridge to connect the park to neighbors across the creek, a new playground, and a parking lot. The 5,000 plus Lakewood residents who live within this service area and experience geographic and economic challenges now have access to a high-quality community park. The city received almost $800,000 in grants to support this $1.6 million park project. And if it was not for the work of Stacy Redding, Mary Dodsworth, and the other dedicated members of the Parks Department here in the city of Lakewood, not only would the award not be present tonight, but certainly, most importantly, this incredible park expansion would not have happened. So Stacy, we are so proud of your work. And thank you and appreciate you accepting this award on behalf of all of us who take a little bit of credit for all the work you do. So thank you.
Thank you. I did not have this prepared. We can-
You don't have to say anything, but you can say a couple of things about the project if you'd like.
Thank you. I'm grateful for recognition of this particular project and have a lot of personal satisfaction and excitement invested in the community garden at that particular space. I hope you all have taken a chance to go by the site and visit that space and see all the community members enjoying these recent improvements. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the community gardens are amazing, and they're just going to come to fruition now that the rain is hopefully going to stop for a second. Yeah. Well, it is June, and that marks close to the end of the academic year for our school district, and certainly the year of service for our youth council members. So tonight, it is with great anticipation that we have our last youth council report for this academic year, and we're also going to celebrate and recognize those youth council members who participated in the events this year. So come on up and give us a youth council report, and then I'll come on up and join you with council members Laura Sella and Bell, and then we'll present certificates for your work this year.
Good evening, Mayor Whalen and City Council. My name is Angel Calderon, and I am the chair of the Lakewood Youth Council and a graduating senior. I'll be talking about what we accomplished this year as the Youth Council. Starting this year strong, we began our duties by volunteering at local service organizations and city-sponsored events. As a Youth Council member, I see that our presence is very appreciated by all of you and the community. We acted as liaisons for the city committees. An example for that is some of our students guided the MLK committee on their annual MLK celebration video, and we provided input on youth violence and overall city safety to the Public Safety Committee. We supported local artists and made connections by attending the monthly art gallery walk at City Hall. We created well-received video content for the city's social media presence. Over the holidays, we played Secret Santa for 2 Springbrook families and hand-delivered their gifts, which brought lots of joy. I got to spend a whole day with the mayor, seeing how he performed with his colleagues, going to the gym, drinking coffee, and speeding on the freeway. We rounded up the year by hosting our annual youth summit, which 87 students attended and enjoyed. Breakout sessions on college prep, job prep, life balance, political advocacy, and cultural wealth. We had a blast participating in City Council speed round, visited 17 vendors who gave us workforce development and mental health resources, and we were able to have fun by having free coffee, lunch, group pics at the photo booth, and played video games on a big screen. And for the Mayor Whalen, hope to see you at the gym this summer.
All right, very good.
Hello, Council. My name is Chase. I'm a junior at Lakes High School, and I'm a co-chair here at Youth Council. So currently, for next year, we're planning on making a summer planning committee for Youth Council next year to really focus on making a structure for Youth Council and also making our 2 to 3 initiatives for next year. Our initiatives are mainly what our focus is for next year and what we're going to target and kind of work on for the youth next year. Then currently, we've discussed one idea for one of our initiatives, which would be for focusing on recreation and fun events for the youth. Because we've had a lot of high demand from youth around us saying like, hey, I wish we had more fun events in Lakewood. So we really want to focus on that and bring that to our community. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you, Council.
Very good. Well, thank you. Before we come on up and present the certificates, we may each have some comments we'd like to share with you to thank you and express our well wishes to you, especially the seniors. It's really been a pleasure to work with you. I hope you found your participation in the liaison commissions and boards to be interesting and certainly insightful for you. We know it was for us to receive student voice in the various aspects with which and for which you served. I especially personally enjoyed the Youth Summit. We're going to provide some feedback. I think we did a little bit about maybe expanding the time so we can actually have some qualitative conversations in the roundtable discussions, because I thought those were very interesting. Another thing we may consider doing is having something at the front end of your year with the adult council, with the youth council, so that we can get to know one another a little bit more in depth to lead off the year with a little bit more pizzazz and, as you've indicated, some more fun. So that's my thought. But again, from me to you, thank you very much. And Angel, if you're around this summer, another plate on the barbell, my friend. We'll get another plate on the barbell. Anyone else have any comments? Councilmember Bell.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to congratulate all of you on just a wonderful year. The Youth Summit was a great culmination of all of your efforts. And I just think all of you just have so much potential and so many wonderful things ahead of you in the future. And I'm looking forward to the more fun events next year that you guys are talking about. And please feel free to engage the council and reach out and ask us how we can participate and really be there to help and support you guys. So thank you all.
Very good. Thank you. All right. So Councilmember Laura Sellen Bell, or one or both, why don't you join me at the dais here? Okay, so I'm going to read these off and you guys are going to make sure that the name matches and hand it out. Yeah, they are in order. So first, Alexandra Corona Hernandez. Congratulations. And we'll take you right up there and then we'll shake hands.
Thank you.
Yeah. Alexis Lynn. Congratulations. We'll shake hands with everyone as we go through. It'll be like a big receiving line. Alvin Nayanho. Nayanho? Did I pronounce it right, sir? Yeah, come on up. Angel Calderon Rodriguez. Ariana Mello. You'll see up there in just a minute. Ava Qualls. Bentley Webster. Bentley Webster. All right. Bridget Holbrook. Chase Washington. Irie Henkel. Jacqueline Rodriguez Leal. Jocelyn Valenzuela Mendez. Kasia King. Catherine Kaiser. Kimberly Estrada. Lincoln Estrada Perez. Lucille Asadi McLaughlin. Louis Awehan. Did I get that right? I'm close. Sorry about that. Nevea Tut. Renita Benavente. Rufaro Guza. Shiloh Alamio. Janice Peters. Siddhartha Pant. Violet Johnson. We get everybody? Well, congratulations. We're going to do a little round robin shaking of the hands, and then Derek will come up and take a big photograph. We want everyone to smile because you had such a good year, right? All right. Congratulations again. We'll do a little handshake thing and we'll take a photograph. All right, so everyone, I know it's funny, we're gonna be everyone eating like this. So maybe 3 rows, we gotta get everyone on this side needs to get everyone squeezing tight. We're getting closer. If this group on this side, get closer around, it would be like a bookend. Okay, 5 of you on that side. Keep it on that side. Everyone ready? That way, I'm gonna bookend there. Got it. Okay, and normally tonight we would end our session with the Clover Park School District report, but tonight we don't have a particular report, so we will move on to public comments. Public comments are accepted by mail, email, or live, virtual, or in-person comment. Comments may be submitted in advance by mail or email to our city clerk, Brianna Schumacher, at 6000 Main Street Southwest here in Lakewood, or at her email address, bschumacher@cityoflakewood.us. Comments received up to an hour before the meeting have been provided to the council electronically, if any were provided, and the clerk will read the names of those who have submitted written comments in advance.
Mayor Whalen, we received no comments in advance of this evening's meeting.
Very good. Members of the audience certainly may comment on items pertaining to city business during this public comment period. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. We simply ask that you queue up to the microphone, state your name and city of residence, and then proceed with your 3 minutes. Virtual comments are also welcomed. If you'd like to provide live virtual public comments, please join the Zoom meeting as an attendee by calling the telephone number 253-215-8782. Enter the meeting ID number that I believe was on the screen, but it was 868-7263-2373. And then upon entering the meeting, use the raise the hand feature to be called on. And when you are called upon, unmute yourself, and then we'll give you the 3 minutes to speak after you've given your name and residence of record. Outside of public comments, all attendees on Zoom will continue to have the ability to virtually raise a hand for the duration of the meeting. But if you want to speak during the public comment period, please make sure that your hand is raised until we see that either you've been acknowledged or no one else wishes to continue to speak or be called upon. So tonight, I'm going to call on those who have signed in for in-person comment first, followed by those who are on Zoom or on the phone. And the first on our public comment sign-in sheet, Carissa and Jackie. Come on up and just again state your name for the record and city of residence, and then feel free to proceed.
Mayor Whalen and Council, I'm Jackie and Carissa with the Buffalo Soldiers Museum. Thank you again for all that you do for the great American defense community. As you know, we're about American history and also honoring and celebrating our military. We are pleased that this year we will be hosting Labor Day Festival, which will be on Labor Day, Monday, September the 2nd at Cheney Stadium. The theme is honoring our military labor force. And as you know, the military brings in the most residents and also has the highest revenue. The event is free and open to the public. We planned a family day to invite the military community to meet the surrounding community. And so with that, Carissa will tell you about the fun event that we've planned.
Great, thank you.
Expanding on what Jackie shared, we're really excited for this year's festival. Last year, the festival was featured on King 5 News and Fox 13 News. And thanks to your contributions last year, we had a really amazing time, and so many people are very excited for this year already. The festival will include a video game truck, lots of family and kid activities, including bouncy houses and inflatable slides. We'll also have live music and live entertainment, and lots of local businesses organizations, and food trucks. We'll also be hosting the military softball game. It's featuring the Air Force and versus the Army, and that will be inside Cheney Stadium. We want to use the history of this event to influence how we continue to grow it and touch the local communities for the future. Through the theme of our event honoring the past, present, and future, it drives our passions and purpose. With your generous support this year, we can impact our military families and communities in really big ways. Not only do we want to honor them with an incredible family tradition for years to come, we'd also love to offer free back-to-school supplies for the children within the communities. We hope you'll join us at this event and help us reach others by bringing the military and local communities together. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Look forward to it. Certainly can clap for that. That's a good thing. We don't normally do it in public comment, but what a great event. That was the last individual or group that signed in on the public comment sheet, but fear not, you're more than welcome to address council and provide public comment if you wish to do so. Just come on up and state your name and residence of record and proceed. Ms. Douglas.
Good evening, Mayor Whalen and council. Thank you so much for having me. Michelle Douglas, Emergency Food Network, and I live in Tacoma, Washington. I just want to say thank you. The Lakewood City Council came out early and in a really amazing way to support our new warehouse that we've built here in Lakewood, the Greens. We were very excited to unveil that last month, and it's starting to get filled up. And we appreciate the past support and the ongoing support for our mission to keep everyone in Pierce County fed. Currently, we're supporting 75 different food pantries across the county, many of them here in Lakewood. And we know that for the residents that 1 in 10 need access to emergency food services, your support and the ability for us to function at the level needed has been a crucial element of supporting our neighbors. So we just wanted to say thank you this evening for your ongoing support and appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to address the council who's present in the audience? Anyone else who wish to address council in the public comment period? If not, we'll turn to those who may be appearing virtually. Madam Clerk, I see at least one hand raised, Mr. Dennis Haugen. And I see somebody by the name of Samsung SM.
Dennis Haugen, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, former resident of Lakewood, Washington. Tonight's subject starts out with lawyers. You all hire lawyers. If you don't hire them directly, you hire them oftentimes when you elect officials to judgeships, prosecuting attorneys, many, many, many different roles. What really caught my eye was attorneys now no longer have to take the bar exam in the state of Washington. Well, does that affect you? Sooner or later, those of you who are attorneys who educated on the old system are going to retire. What kind of attorneys are you going to be getting in the future? 13 states have declared themselves as states. I'm not counting the cities now, states. Sanctuary states. So in a layman's view, that is not promoting law and order. It's anti-law and order. To encourage people to not go through the gate is absolutely ridiculous, but it's beginning to have great effects across the country. And it's going to be competitive. Those who do a better job of law and order, of course, will probably do better. And all of these great things that you're trying to put across tonight, how great you are. But you're going to have to prove it over time. And there's a lot of money going into housing. We hear all these stories. To provide anything for an illegal immigrant is to possibly take away a job for a local citizen, make the price of housing higher because you have government money coming in and buying housing. It just makes me wonder, oh, then you got weather, great weather. Homeless people come to the coast. They don't even care if they get housing. But of course, there's all kinds of debit cards and all kinds of benefits and going out there. Let's see where you go in the future with your view on the law, especially when future attorneys won't even have to take a test. How does that make me or anybody confident? Thank you.
I see a hand raised, and you'll have to identify yourself. It just shows as Samsung SM, so I assume that's a particular telephone. Madam Clerk, it shows is muted still.
Samsung SM, if you can please unmute yourself. If you're on a telephone line, you can push *6.
Well, maybe they didn't intend to speak. Their hand is.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Oh, great. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm finally connecting after many months of watching, and I'm very excited for the developments in Lakewood.
Do we have
It's
your name real quick and your residence?
sorry, Anna Muller, and I live in Lakewood.
Thank you.
Very exciting what's going on. However, I just had a couple things. Number one, as far as I know, God is not making any more land in Lakewood. I don't know about the China Sea, but I know here he's not making any more land. And so I get the suburban thinking of the 50s and 60s, which is horizontal sprawl. And so I know that's not what we're doing anymore in Lakewood. So I just wanted to touch on what I saw in Glasgow and Greece and Malaysia. Not that we want to have 10 stories high skyscrapers in Lakewood, core, the downtown, but I'm just trying to think if there was a way we could go up instead of out. And with regard to the apartments complex going in adjacent to Barnes and Noble, if we could maybe take a look at doing all underground parking so that would free up acreage for other development in the surrounding areas, i.e. the green belt. Not sure where that is going to be. The other thing is I looked at even South Center, as ridiculous as that is. The cinema and restaurants, atrium, opened it up, second and third floor. Of course, you need to have load-bearing walls, and I don't know what in town center currently has load-bearing that you could even go up to a second floor, like i.e. above Target. Looking at the other buildings there, are they load-bearing? Could you go up? And then address with escalators and stairs and elevators to go up and do that kind of development. Because I watched your planning, your meeting on the 28th. So anyway, that was just a thought. I know I'm running out of time, but thank you for listening.
Thank you. So that is the last individual on Zoom or on the phone. Madam Clerk, am I missing anyone?
Mayor, there are no other attendees on Zoom at this time.
Very good. Then I'll declare the public comment period closed. We'll now turn to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk.
A, approval of the minutes of the city council meeting of May 20th, 2024. B, approval of claims vouchers in the amount of $4,223,347.69 for the period of April 16th, 2024 through May 15th, 2024. C, approval of payroll checks in the amount of $3,087,854.71 for the period of April 16th, 2024 through May 15th, 2024. D, motion number 2024-36, authorizing the award of a construction contract to Sierra Santa Fe Corporation in the amount of $272,777 for the 2024 chip seal program. E, motion number 2024-37, releasing American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds in the amount of $1 million to Living Access Support Alliance per motion 2023-15, in the amount of $250,000 to Emergency Food Network per motion 2022-101, and to approve the reobligation of $25,000 of American Rescue Plan Act funds to conduct a locally initiated amendment to the Lakewood Shoreline Master Program in 2024. F, motion number 2024-38, authorizing the execution of an amendment to the agreement with Pacific Point Defense, or Law, for public defense services. G, items filed in the office of the city clerk. 1, Planning Commission meeting minutes of April 17th, 2024, and 2, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting minutes of April 23rd, 2024.
Thank you. Is there any item which any member wishes to remove from consideration on the consent agenda at this time? If not, do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Pearson, seconded by Councilmember Bell, that we adopt the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The consent agenda has been adopted. We now turn to the regular agenda ordinances. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 805, granting Rainier Connect North LLC doing business as Light Curve, a non-exclusive franchise for the transmission of cable access television in the city of Lakewood.
Thank you very much for this. I'll call on Michael Vargas, the Assistant to the City Manager, to give us an overview on this particular item.
Well, good evening, Mayor and council members. Michael Vargas here to give a brief overview of the cable access television franchise with Light Curve that is before you. And I'm looking on page 100 of your packet tonight. I do not have too much to add to this summary here. Essentially, the discussion portion here really outlines sort of the narrative of how Light Curve came to be, being born out of well, still Rainier Connect North. But I think the punchline of this summary would be that we are looking at continuing a cable access TV franchise that we currently already have with Rainier Connect, just as they have transferred over to being Light Curve. And we're still continuing that cable access TV franchise, essentially. And so the most substantive change within the franchise would be the term. We are looking at entering into an initial 5-year term with up to 3 5-year extensions, if agreed upon by both parties, for a potential total of 20 years. And in the world of telecommunications, this seems to be a good median ground for revisiting the franchise and keeping up with technologies as they become available. And I believe that summarizes my sort of overview here. Happy to field any questions from the council. Thanks.
Any questions? So initial 5-year term, right?
Correct.
6 months written notice in advance or whatever to extend, or it looks like some extension period for sure. Total of 20 years possible.
Correct.
Okay. 2 months written notice, I see, to terminate in advance. Okay, very good. Any questions of Mr. Vargas? If not, then we'll have a motion to adopt ordinance number 805.
So moved.
Been moved by Councilmember Laura Sella, seconded by Councilmember Boki, that we adopt ordinance number 805. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Ordinance 805 has been adopted. We now turn to ordinance number 806. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 806, granting Rainier Connect North LLC doing business as Light Curve, a non-exclusive franchise for the transmission of telecommunications in, through, over, and under the rights of way of the city of Lakewood.
And for this, again, we have Mr. Vargas, Assistant to the City Manager, to give us a brief overview on this, and for the benefit of the public, perhaps explain the difference between this ordinance and the one we just adopted.
Sure, Mayor. I'm looking at page 141 of your packet as well. And this is not a scrivener's error, nor are you seeing double tonight. We actually have two franchises from the same business, Light Curve, because over the years, they have started providing telecommunication services over those originally implemented cables that were for cable access TV, but now they're transmitting internet access over them. So that would be the difference. And there's the impetus between entering this new telecommunication franchise with Light Curve is that in the future, they are looking to expand from that original cable infrastructure that they are leasing from the city of Tacoma, and owning that portion that they want to extend outright. So we would need to have a telecommunication franchise in place for that. So that is sort of the main difference here. The first one was for cable access TV. This one is for a new service they are offering over the years, and that would be for internet. So we need two franchises for those two sides of this business endeavor by Light Curve.
And just to clarify, they're paying the additional franchise fee
Correct.
for each of the two franchises that we're poised to adopt, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Good. Any questions for Mr. Vargas? Thank you for working through these two for us. And on behalf of the city, do I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 806?
So moved.
And moved by Councilmember Pearson, seconded by Councilmember Laura Sella, that we adopt ordinance number 806. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance number 806 has been adopted. We now turn to resolutions. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2024-09, adopting the 6-year 2025 through 2030 Comprehensive Transportation Improvement Program.
Thank you very much. And for this, we'll briefly call on Troy Pokswinski, our Capital Projects Manager, to provide a brief overview as we have reviewed this in some detail during the study session.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, I am here before you with a resolution for the 6-year TIP for 2025 through 2030. It's an annual review of the transportation plan that we have mandated by state statute. As you mentioned, it's been before the Planning Commission, you guys at study session, and then through the public. We did not receive any substantial comments that we've incorporated into the draft to make it a final. The plan is to submit this in July, prior to the July 1st deadline to the State Department of Transportation Secretary. At this time, I ask any questions you may have.
Any questions? I just will follow up on the same question I raised last time. Is there any reason to add any sort of capital costs to the Interlochen Bridge on this particular document other than the maintenance inspection monies we consistently provide for every 2 years in the TIP?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Boki.
Just want to make sure for everyone's edification, the main changes are actually we're taking off of several, quite a few actually projects that are either have been completed or in the process of being completed in the next few months. Is that correct? There's no major additions.
Correct. There are no additions to the TIP this year. It's just an update of costs to account for inflation in future years, as well as for the updated, deleted portions of the TIP which have been completed.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing no further questions, I'll ask for a motion to adopt resolution 2024-09 for the TIP program.
Mayor, I move approval of resolution number 2024-09.
It's been moved by Councilmember Boki, seconded by Councilmember Pearson, that we adopt resolution 2024-09. Any further discussion? All in favor of adoption, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The resolution has been adopted. Mr. Caulfield, do we have any unfinished business?
Not this evening, Mayor.
I see we have an item of new business. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Correct. Motion number 2024-39, authorizing the execution of an agreement with Facet Northwest, Inc. in the amount of $150,000 to conduct a City of Lakewood tree inventory.
And for this, we have Tiffany Spear, our Long Range and Strategic Planning Manager, to give us a brief overview.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening. Tiffany Spear with the Community and Economic Development Department. In the end of 2023, the council actually obligated $340,000 of ARPA funds toward the creation of an urban forestry program. And so this is the first step in that process. This is a $150,000 contract with Facet Northwest, formerly known as DCG Watershed. They were one of 5 applicants that went through an RFP process. They were selected after internal review and interviews, and they will be conducting the on-the-ground, coupled with some LiDAR tree inventorying that will take a much more detailed review than what happened in 2022 for the tree code being adopted. If you'll recall, when that was done, there were a bunch of maps created, but it was really GIS-based, map-based. No one went out and actually counted trees. But we did estimate tree coverage at that point. This is now to refine that information, supplement it, and create the foundation for an urban forestry program where we actually know where are the highest priorities of where there could be trees, but there aren't for whatever various reasons. So any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
See, none, I have a question. Just, educate me about the substance of the inventory. Is it just the number of trees, or is it the size, make, dimension, that kind of thing as well?
It is, Mr. Mayor, and if I could cite quickly, I may not have the page number correct, but within the contract itself, it lays it out very specifically what they're going to do with physical count, what they're going to do with LiDAR analysis, and it's tree health, the tree type, the longevity, for instance, how can we, as particularly on public property, be planning for when a tree needs to be taken down for whatever reason. And there will also be information, things like what are the drought tolerant species that are in the city right now as temperatures continue to rise. One of the things that local governments are starting to realize is it may not make sense to plant what people think is a good idea now if it won't last 20 years from now due to the weather.
And again, for the benefit of the public who may not have reviewed the packet, can you just describe briefly the background and expertise that Facet Northwest Inc. has to do this work?
Well, again, their name until just the beginning of this process this year actually was DCG Watershed. They've been around for quite a long time. Actually, just this last week, they provided a tree inventory webinar through the Municipal Services Research Center. They're seen as a regional, a statewide expert in this field, and they have worked with quite a number of Puget Sound as well as Washington State jurisdictions on tree inventory work.
Very good. And as I see under the methodology, the field work is performed by certified arborists, and many of whom are tree risk assessment qualified individuals.
Correct. Yes.
So we're getting a good report out of the investment. That's great.
Yeah, and it was a nice balance with this application of not only their technical expertise, but their understanding and familiarity with local government process, including finance over time. So we are going to be able to get not only the scientific data, but also some good recommendations for next steps.
Fantastic. Mr. Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of quick questions. So, well, one comment rather. Does this include like city parks, or is it specific to the right of way?
It includes city parks, and we're also hoping to be able to gain permission from large private or semi-public property owners such as hospitals or school districts to be able to go on their property and do tree counts as well. And we're also, one reason I mentioned the LiDAR, that will be one way to be able to be on the right of way, but do private property assessments as best as possible.
So like the
Um,
Western State
Yeah,
parcel?
yeah.
Okay. And then as part of this work, is there any thought into identifying areas, maybe in the right of way or I guess parks, but that would be potentially a good candidate for new trees to be planted as, some of these developments come in and they pay into our program, if we had a bank of areas that would be good to plant certain types of trees, that would be, I think, beneficial as well.
Yes, that will be part of their recommendation is parts of the city that either could, because they don't have anything at all, or their stand could be expanded. They're going to be recommending the right areas to plant.
Great, thanks.
Mr. Boki.
Thank you, Mayor. Tiffany, so I think the page we're looking at is 196 data attributes to collect.
Correct.
So, and to dovetail on to Councilmember Pearson's question, it looks like all the parks and everything. So when they go into parks or if they're allowed on school district property and various things like that, are they going to do all these attributes? Are they going to measure every tree? This says the common name of the tree. So they're doing the tree count. It's the goal is the goal number one to be 100% count. And two, then they're going to measure at breast height, although I'm not sure of DBH and then DBH 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I don't know that. Number of stems. And then they're going to approximate the height, canopy radius. They're going to give it a condition rating of some
Correct.
sort.
Mhm.
Drought and heat tolerance, expected life, management. Are they going to do this for every tree, let's say in Fort Steilacoom Park? Is that the
They are
goal
going to
here?
do it in the less densely forested areas where you have what they would call densely forested, which would include, for instance, Sealy Lake Park. They will be doing polygon studies and kind of enhancing what they already have through the GIS data. So they're not physically going to touch every single tree. They're going to look at the density of each stand and determine whether they can do that or they need to go a rounding route.
Okay, and so then in the parts of the parks or the school properties that are a little more sparsely done, are they going to actually do the count then? Or
Yeah, it will be depending on time and weather and the number of consultants they have on the ground on a good day. And depending on the type of tree, if you've got a good tree covered because the leaves are still on the tree, all of those things will affect the final amount. But what they have found with this technique in past jurisdictions is they get about a 95% accuracy rate.
So how do they go about trying to get the cooperation of private landowners?
That is something that the city is going to be assisting with through public outreach to let them know that these people are on the ground and they will be driving by if nothing else. But if you are a property owner, a business owner, or a private residence owner and would like to be involved, reach out to the city and then we would in turn get that moving.
And I anticipate you'll ask, and I would hope that we'd get cooperation from the state, let's say on the game farm and then the
Right.
property, because on that side, it goes all the way to Chambers Creek and there's quite a stand of timber as well as the oaks on the property. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I'm looking at page 192. It's up to 9,500 trees for an on-the-ground assessment, which is quite a few trees.
Mhm.
And not necessarily any of them on private property, just public. So,
It will go up if we get that permission, but this was for sure what they're going to be able to do.
right.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, well, I guess we're really branching out with our tree canopy program. Yes. Going out on a limb, we need to have a motion to adopt motion 2024-39.
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilmember Pearson, seconded by Councilmember Laura Sella, that we adopt motion 2024-39. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Motion 2024-39 has been adopted without further puns. So we'll now move to reports by the city manager, Mr. Caulfield.
Well, good evening, Mayor and council members. First, I'd like to call up our Capital Projects Manager, Troy Posquinski, who will give you an update on the Interlochen bridge repair, including some options and alternatives, and also a recommendation on a path forward for which we're looking for a consensus from council this evening. And then that will allow us to initiate the process to make the repairs and get things done by September 30th of this year. With that.
Very good.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As the city manager mentioned, we are here before you tonight to discuss the status of the Lake Steilacoom Bridge, the Interlochen Bridge, if you will, as well as some options to get a consensus on kind of how we're moving forward. And then we'll kind of go through some of the next steps that we see on the bridge. So just to kind of a brief timeline on where the bridge has been. In 1927 was when the original bridge was constructed. In 1951, there was a complete renovation of the bridge according to the Pierce County records that we have. They tore everything down to the pilings, built back up. And then the key thing to note out of this is that every decade since then, with the exception of the 1970s, there's been some kind of structural renovation, not quite as detailed as what we're proposing this year, but certainly some kind of structural renovation to the bridge at that point in time. Some component terms, the bridge is basically made up of four piles that extend down to the lake bed. They come up, they make what is called a bent, the four piles together. The pile caps that go up over top of the bent are the members that are the most critically decaying right now at the current juncture. And then we also have a group of stringers, particularly stringers A, N, and then the two stringers over the exterior sidewalk portion are traditionally failing us in the past and kind of currently failing us for various reasons I'll kind of get into a little bit later. So the current condition summary of the bridge, the piles below the surface are doing very well, no problems. There are 7 piles above the surface that we will need to look at in the coming years. We're not looking at these this year. The permitting for it is quite different than what we're proposing, as well as we're not 100% certain what we're doing. There are 2 of those piles which have been repaired in the 70s or 80s and 90s, and we need to look at them again for other reasons. The abutments appear to be good. Your pile caps, there are 42 pile caps. We're recommending that you need to replace 17 this year. The timber braces, the X members kind of just above the water line, are in generally pretty good condition, but there are some that we need to look at as well. And there are 19 stringers with which have entered the decay process that we're proposing to replace this year as well. The deck's in great condition. The timber curbing was most recently replaced in 2021 as a result of somebody hitting it. We need to look at a segment on that this time as well, as it's been hit. The timber railing posts are starting to show signs of wear and decay, but in general, they're in pretty good condition. And then there are some utilities which we do not maintain on the bridge, which appear to be adequate at this time. Getting into the pile cap failure that's led to this, you can see the compression of the pile cap itself over the top of the pile. The big issue here is not necessarily just the compression of the pile cap, but the fractures on the pile. The next slide will kind of show that a little bit better. You can see the fracture line there, as well as the 1.5 inch compression of the pile cap. And that is a result of the photo in the upper right-hand corner is not this bridge, but a section of kind of representing what's going on with this. 2 of your members have a 1/2 inch shell remaining. The remainder is rotted out inside. So as that shell starts to shrink, the pile starts to compress, fractures grow, and that's the concern point at this time. You have roughly 21 piles which have been replaced with wood piles, and most recently a photo here of the steel encapsulation that was performed by the DOT in 2020 or 2013, pardon me. One pile that was done, it's quite more expensive to go with the steel versus the wooden timber. We don't recommend doing that moving forward as it's just becoming quite more cost prohibitive. Diving into the options a little bit, option one would be strictly to replace the pile caps, which are currently causing the bridge critically to be shut down. There are 8 pile caps. We estimate the cost of which will be $467,000. The key component of this is the $430,000 of that is strictly contract labor and equipment, cost for a contractor to set up and perform the operation. Option two is a little bit more advanced. It gets you that 2 to 5 year window is what we estimate. 2 additional caps and then 10 stringers would be replaced under this option. You'll notice it's about $60,000 or $70,000 more than option one to replace the 10 stringers and 2 caps. Option three, the option that we recommend would be to replace all items which are currently showing signs of decay or have entered the decay process quite substantially. This is 19 stringers and 17 caps, which are currently in the decay process. The estimated cost for this option is $829,000. Again, this is what we are recommending. Option four would be to conclude all of the stringers and caps involved in option three, as well as replace the remaining caps with the exception of the steel cap. We do not recommend this as some of the caps have been around since 1951. A big component of that is that some of the caps from 1951 are actually acting in better condition than some of the caps that were just even replaced in 1993. The reason for that is in 1980, the EPA has outlawed creosote as a use of treatment. So they went with a 50-50 mixture of creosote and engine oil, used engine oil, versus the 100% creosote that they had from 1951. The current method that we were replacing with doesn't even quite give us the life of the creosote cap. So we don't recommend moving forward with that option at this time. And option five would be to replace all of the outside stringers as well as the 41 caps. Again, for the same purpose, we don't recommend moving forward with this option at this time. Which wooden caps need to be replaced? This graphic shows roughly half of the bridge, of which various options are. Red would be critical options, yellow is some priority 1 options that we have, and then the blue would be priority 1 and 2 options, which is anything in the decay. Again, this is the second half of the bridge. And the recommendation, we recommend moving forward with option 3. As previously mentioned, some of our 70-year-old stringers are not acting as well as some of the 30 to 40-year-old stringers that were just replaced. And again, we would recommend option 3 as if we weren't to move forward, our projections would be that we would be back out with a bridge under options 1 or 2 with within the next 10 years. And the cost would be quite a bit higher. The process for replacing these, they put in a pile clamp, which is what you see there on the bottom, the metal on each of the 4 piles across the bent. They would put some false work, the outside wooden members, jack up the false work using a synchronous jacking system. They would cut out the bad pile portion and then just strictly slide in the other pile segments. So it's pretty straightforward. There's nothing complex about it. Just making sure we get the right contractor who knows what they're doing is going to be the big thing on this. What kind of equipment they're going to likely use? They're going to likely use a floating pier or floating barge type system. They call them flexi floats, just little, almost like Lego blocks that lock together in convenient configurations, so the contractors can stand and work from the platform, as well as they'll use some cranes and that type of stuff from the bridge as well. They will probably need to buoy off segments around the work zone, as well as potentially take a portion of the boat launch out there off the Lake Steilacoom Park area, if you will, off of Edgewater for temporary access, a couple days here and there. Future concerns, the rail posts have shown significant deterioration, and at some point we'll be back before you. As you can see in this picture, they're not holding up real well, but they've got plenty of life left in them at this point. We don't even consider them a priority two for this. Additionally, 7 piles that we have, which 2 of them have been cut below in 83 and then 93 again, and are starting to show deterioration again. So we're looking at various options at that point to see what we need to do with those. As well as the timber braces are starting to show wear. We'll replace a couple of those this year at strategic locations and potentially when we go to replace the piles, those will kind of come up again. We do recommend monitoring the bridge every 2 years above the water, and 5 years the DOT does some underwater diving on them. The deterioration under the water just isn't showing up. So that's the recommendation moving forward on that. At this time, we ask for any questions as well as any kind of concurrence we can get on moving forward with option 3.
I have a couple questions and I'll turn it over to the engineers here. I'm just a lawyer. Why wouldn't we get some pricing at least for a portion of steel use on some of the caps if it were to give longer longevity, if you will? Like we did in 2008 or whenever it was when you had that one steel. You wouldn't have to necessarily case the entire cap, but maybe just a plate of steel on the top of it. Would that help or not? Or
so not necessarily a plate of steel over the top, because the wooden member is rotting from the inside out.
Okay.
So that's kind of the struggle we've been having with this. So in order to use any kind of steel, it would literally have to be the entire
encapsulated.
encapsulation.
Got it.
As far as why we're not proposing to proceed with that, number one, the current wood treatment is much better than that 50-50 mixture of the 80s and 90s. They project us to get 50 years of life out of the current one, and that's in a wet environment. One of the things we really want to look at is why some of these members are getting more wet than others. And to be honest with you, we just haven't had a chance to go out and look at it.
Right.
But one of our hypotheses is basically that the timber curb, there's a steel pin all the way through that timber curb, and we're thinking the water's getting in through there. So as we kind of go through this process, we will be taking a long look at that timber curb. You made mention that, earlier in the previous resolution, maybe take a look at something on the tip. Over the next year, we'll look at that and potentially be back before you with a recommendation on something on the tip with that.
Well, that was going to be my other question. Thank you. Because now that we know and we have reason to get some bid estimates for future work like we do for road surfacing, we might as well do it for the bridge work and plan it, because at least it's a planning tool for us, whether we can get grant money or not. It's really a planning capital tool / maintenance tool for us.
Correct. We just really want to get in there and investigate what's going on with it before anything else.
Got it. Now, and I presume that steel bridge caps, not just encapsulating wood, but is there such a thing as a steel bridge cap out there? And if there is, I assume it's a lot more expensive.
There is, and you could put an I-beam in or the steel beam enclosure that we have. That the key with this is we can't get the material in time to put it in this year. And our fish window goes from July 16th to September 30th. We're bound by that fish window, which is why it's such a rush to get through this. Our path forward with this, provided you guys provide us concurrence tonight, is that we order material for the wood tomorrow. It gets here 1 week or the week that the contractor will start working on this. And we will have this out to bid no later than this Friday in order to make that window happen.
Okay.
The steel is another 2 months out to get this type of steel manufactured.
And do we have any idea what the cost might be for steel as opposed to wood? Because I'm thinking long term, right? I mean, if the public had to wait a little longer to get a longer term fix, maybe it's worth the wait. I don't know.
Correct. More than likely, you're looking at 1.5 times the scale. So instead of an $800,000 job,
1.2.
Yeah.
But the factor of longevity would be at least twice or 3 times, I would assume.
It potentially could, but then you're running up against the longevity of the piles themselves as well. At which point, if the piles start going then you're starting to you need to redo the entire bridge, 70 years out from now. So you've got to weigh that in there a little bit as well.
Okay.
We kind of looked at that as in a term.
Again, I'm not an engineer, so I appreciate those that are. Any other questions? Mr. Pearson, who is an engineer, and Mr. Boki, who isn't an engineer.
Thank you, Mayor. So with these repairs, this type of maintenance, option 3, it seems like we can get maybe another 10 years until we're having to do some sort of, major, minor, major maintenance again. The total, what is the total lifespan of the bridge with the current piers? Roughly, are we talking 50, 100, 70?
We estimate, and this is roughly estimate, right? We don't know exactly what's going on with this thing. 70 years is roughly what we're thinking we're getting from our consultants.
And then these pier caps are 50-year pier caps. So we're kind of coming close to a, total conception point with this type of repair. And so the steel ones would put us long past, whatever the piles would hold up for.
Correct, but it's that 50 year isn't like okay, it's only good for 50 years. That
could be
50
longer.
years is what the manufacturer recommends for protection against the fungus, the antifungal from getting in there and starting the decay process. So you do have, theoretically, you have some time frame. The other things that we really want to stress with this is if we can get the water away from these, wherever the water's coming from, and these are well above water, so it's not like the water's coming up and getting these wet. It's coming from the roadway up on top and the sidewalk. If we can get the water away from that, there's a strong potential that we can extend the longevity of that 50 years to match what you probably have left on the timber pile.
Okay. And as far as that goes, I've done some deck work, similar, you don't want to have water on your stringers there. And so there's like HDPE, kind of plastic that goes over the top of it that kind of helps protect the water from sitting on those. So I assume there's lots of different solutions for that. Another question was, this will take us to replacing like what, 80% total or something of all of the caps?
Of the caps, there will be 12 remaining of the 42. So yeah, you're right in that ballpark.
And of the remaining caps, are those the really old ones from like the creosote ones, or are they?
Yes, they would all be creosote.
Okay. And those have held up historically better?
Yes, they're holding up better than some of the ones we were putting in 93, according to the data we've received from our consultant.
Okay. And then I'm sure we'll get some comments about, why don't we just replace the whole bridge? So could you just give a quick summary as to why that is not, really a realistic option, and kind of what the permitting just, at the 30,000 foot level would look like on doing something like that?
Absolutely. So there's a couple things with replacing the entire bridge. The first of which is the current bridge is not functionally, it's functionally obsolete, which means it does not serve all the multimodal forms of transportation that it would need to. In order for us to do so, it would require purchasing enough right-of-way around those lakefront houses on each side of the bridge in order to accommodate safe pedestrian, bike, and vehicular traffic that we would need to buy people's houses out. It becomes very cost prohibitive. Typically, you're looking at 20 years out to start planning something like this for something of this nature. I mean, Sumner did 15 years on a bridge where they had the adequate capacity on both sides of it for funding, for permitting, and everything else. This is a substantial task to try to replace this bridge.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Boki?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation. And I guess my question is on the slide that says future concerns. The rail posts have shown significant deterioration and will need to be replaced at some point in the future. The rail posts Do they go all the way down in the water, and what would those cost to replace? What are we looking at?
So they do not go down to the water. They attach to the stringers, which is part of the comment on where the water's coming in on some of these outside stringers, as well as that timber curb that keeps people from going out onto this, which these posts are not significant any longer, pretty much for crash testing. A portion of the concern is the rod we have supporting the timber curbs, as well as some of these timber rail posts that we have.
So those are, okay, so when do you think those need to be replaced?
It's basically at this point, they're for pedestrians out there. 10 years, they're so abouts is what we're estimating at this time. Well,
But that doesn't have anything to do with the water or anything, so it shouldn't be too expensive.
exactly.
7 piles have issues above and right at the water level. What does that mean?
So we have 7 piles, which are showing shell thicknesses between 2.5 and 4 inches. And these piles are 16 to 18 inches in diameter. They're varying sizes. So they're starting to deteriorate above the water level. Anything below the water level, the fungus doesn't really attack things that don't have oxygen. It needs oxygen in order to really start processing it. So it starts eating away at things right where the water comes up and down. 7 of which we need to kind of look at. There are various products. We're just in the infancy stages of investigating this. It's one of the 4 or one of the 7, sorry, is listed as a priority 1 concern, which means, in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll be looking at probably needing to do something
What are
on the
your
one.
options? What are our options on that?
So the options are there's some epoxy resin wraps that they can use that go up and down below it. There's a total concrete encasement. It's not recommended for the permitting out there, as well as for the aesthetics of what you have. And a third option is what's been done out there prior to this is you cut the cap a couple feet below the surface, you put a metal band on it, a couple feet with each direction. There's 2 of which have, and then you place another cap segment in there.
You lost me.
So
When you say cap,
excuse me,
piling?
pile. You would cut the pile. Pardon me.
You'd
cut the
actually
pile
go below the water line, cut the pile, put a new one in,
and put a
kind
band.
of like a hip replacement.
Yep, you got it.
Okay,
Cut it off.
that sounds expensive, though.
They
I'm
can and they
trying
can't.
to, I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm beginning to think that the bridge is in worse shape and then we're limping along. And then now we're almost in $1 million this year. Plus we can't use it for 4 months. Now, 3 or 4 more years or something, it'll be 1 or 2 pilings and that'll be $2 million or something. And I think at some point, do we have a bigger discussion? I mean, you're going to get this is fine, but I am concerned about we're just going to get nickel and dime to death, and it won't be nickels and dimes, and it will really begin to have an impact on the overall transportation system in the city, because that becomes our focal point.
And I understand that from the perspective, I asked the same question to our consultant. How is this bridge compared to the remainder of the bridges that you see? He's a timber expert, the consultant that the city has hired. And he said this bridge is performing really well. You have 800 wooden members on that bridge, over 800, 26 of which need to be looked at.
Okay.
Overall, it's a pretty healthy bridge. Overall, at this current juncture, I say.
Is there a weight problem? I mean, I think some people have mentioned, or we had to close it simply because people weren't complying with the weight restrictions. Is that a problem?
No, for the reason why this was closed was strictly because of the decay, and it rotted from the inside out. it wasn't because there was an overweight problem with any of the vehicles not adhering to the weight limit. The weight limit is extremely conservative on that bridge at the 6 tons right now, but it's that way for a reason, just to make sure that we don't end up with something too big over it.
So 6 tons is bigger than my car, right? But we don't, for instance, don't allow school buses on there.
Correct, at this time. Now, when this repair is completed, we will get another assessment and it'll probably push it back up to the 23 to 27 tons it was previously.
Oh, okay. I would think though that because of the width, it's not safe for school buses.
Been it for years.
But who am I?
It's 10 feet wide. There's plenty of city streets. It's kind of windy as you get down to it, but the bridge itself is tangent enough.
Thanks.
Just a quick question, Troy. Thank you for coming in. I am not a civil engineer, so this is not my area of expertise, but the steel wrapped beam that DOT put in, what inspired them to do that? How was that funded? Is that something that could be an option in the future with other DOT money, or how did that happen?
So the city contracted DOT to put that in at a cost of about $45,000 using their forces. This was in 2013, and the cost has grown quite substantially since then to do this type of operation, not only from a contractor's perspective, as the wholesale replacement of 17 of these with steel certainly exceeds that. Their threshold, and forgive me if I don't know it, but I believe it's $65,000. They can no longer, they're over the top of what they can perform individually. So my understanding is they've even kind of gone away from that on their bridges, let alone helping out agencies do theirs. Pierce County is looking at the same type of stuff for some of their bridges that are currently undergoing the same kind of issues. And they're punting this year with the goal of doing exactly what we're doing next year. What we're proposing to do, pardon me.
That's good. Thank you.
My last question is just on the longevity piece. There are a lot of neighbors in that area, some of whom would say, gee, good time to just close the whole thing. Others have said, maybe since they did talk about doing one-way traffic from a temporary standpoint, maybe we look at that on a full-time basis in conjunction with the Mount Tacoma Drive project that's going to be in design in 2025. Would one-way traffic reduce the impact and increase the longevity of the bridge after these repairs? Do we have a sense that that might be the case?
No, I don't believe that that would increase the longevity. Really the issue here is the timber rotting out from literally water coming from the inside out. The weight on the bridge has had no impact on the issue it currently is undergoing.
Okay, so let me ask Mr. Caulfield, from the memo, I understand that a contract for the repair is going to be, assuming we say go forward with option 1, 2, or 3, it's going to be advertised for bids on Friday, June 7. Do we need to have this as an action item tonight?
No, Mayor, I
Over a
just
certain amount?
need consensus from the council that option 3 is an option that we can move forward with, and then we will move forward with bidding that out, and then the contract itself will then come back for
the
council
council.
consideration at a future date.
Okay, very good.
But we do need some consensus this evening because we are under a tight timeline based on when we can work above the water.
Understood. We all want to keep our head above the water, so to speak. Do we have consensus on option 3? Sounds like there you go. We have consensus to proceed with option 3.
Mr. Puck Squancy will now order the lumber.
Very good.
Just a few more updates. Learned late this afternoon, actually, thank you, Mayor, that the Pierce County Hearing Examiner issued a decision approving the conditional use permit for the Pierce County First Village, as well as denying the SEEP appeal. Actually, I wasn't aware that there was a SEEP appeal as a part of that. But that came out late this afternoon. So of course, this body has appropriated $1 million in ARPA funds for that, pending the outcome of this. And unless the council has any objection, we can bring forward the contractual obligation, as we do with all ARPA funds, for council consideration. I was just talking to Ms. Spear, and she was saying, depending upon where the Tacoma Rescue Mission is, we could have that in front of you as soon as your next regular meeting on June 17th. Of course, the condition is that those funds have to be spent by the end of December, by December 2026. So that will be a condition.
My only caveat to that is just to hear from the city attorney confirmation that this decision and order is still subject to a 21-day LUPA appeal. Is that correct?
That is typically the case. I haven't had a chance to look at it specifically, but yes. And just for those of you playing at home, LUPA is not to be trifled with. The court will absolutely cut people off right at the deadline. The 21 days.
We potentially have
So I
some
would
time
wait.
before finality.
So with that, I recommend that we wait until July.
I would too. That's why I wanted to plant that seed, just to make sure we have some finality here.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll let you know as soon as I do, like I did today.
Just a couple others, couple other items. We knew that Major General Brett Doherty, who is the commander of the Washington National Guard, as well as the director of the Washington Military Department, is going to be retiring this year. However, we learned last week that he's going to be retiring at the end of this month. I thought it'd be nice if the council would consider and issue a proclamation, just recognizing his service and his partnership with the city of Lakewood since he took command. I believe it was 2012. And he's been a very good neighbor to us, him and his team. And so if that's okay, we can have a proclamation before you as part of your next regular meeting on June 17th. And we'll reach out to him to see if he can attend. And if not, we can then just send the proclamation to him on behalf of your regards.
I think that's an excellent suggestion. I don't see any consternation. Let's proceed with that. That'd be great.
Thank you, Mayor. And then the farmer's market kicks off tomorrow from 2 to 7 p.m. It's the first of many that'll run through the middle of September. It's from 2 to 7 p.m. And now it is expected to be cold and very windy tomorrow. So we'll see how things go, quite frankly, because it doesn't take much wind to lift up a lot of the stuff that's out there. So the tents and the like. So it's more like March than it is June.
Yeah. For October.
June 12th, there's a property tax exemption seminar for low-income seniors and people with disabilities, and this is sponsored by SHAPE as well as the city of Lakewood. It'll be here at Lakewood City Hall, and I think Councilmember Boki or Councilmember, you're going to say some introductory remarks, or is it Councilmember Branstetter? One of you. I think it's Councilmember Branstetter is going to say some introductory remarks, given his role on SHAPE. So. And then June 15th, as you learned earlier, or you knew about earlier this evening, is the Juneteenth event, which will be from 3 to 5 p.m. here at the council chambers. The AWC conference is from June 18th to the 21st down in Vancouver, Washington, the other Vancouver. And I know several council members will be attending that. And then also on June 18th, that will then continue through August 27th, which is a Thursday. We kick off our summer concerts at Fort Steilacoom Park, though there are no concerts on July 16th and 23rd, because that's right before and after Summerfest, which is on July 20th. So with that, that's my report.
Well, thank you very much. Any questions of Mr. Caulfield? If not, we'll roll to council comments, and I'll start with Mr. Pearson.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week I had the honor of driving up to Seattle and going to the PSRC General Assembly meeting. That was my first time going there, and it was interesting. Got to meet some people and, tell them about Lakewood and some of the things that we're doing. And actually quite a few folks were pretty impressed with the amount of work we're doing and some of the fun projects that we're trying to focus on with the parks and those sorts of things. So, yeah, it was and Then, let's see here. Oh, no, I didn't, I wasn't able to go to the thing on Saturday, unfortunately. I had my kids' baseball game and party afterwards, so that's it for me.
Very good. Councilmember Lauricella.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. First, congrats to all the youth council here tonight, especially the graduates who are moving on to make a difference in the world. Second, I wanted to thank city staff for their due diligence on the bridge options that they presented and communicating with the public. I know lots of folks want to know what's going on, what the options are, how we come to our decisions, and I think the package tonight's a great way to share that with the community. And then the last thing, I plan on going to the farmer's market tomorrow, and then afterwards, the Tillicum Woodbrook neighborhood meeting, which is always a blast. So I'll be going to that. And then the Public Safety Advisory Council is Wednesday, so I'll be there as well.
Very busy. Thank you. Councilmember Bell.
Thank you, Mayor. I too want to say thank you to the Youth Council tonight. I just thought that all that they've done throughout the last year has been really amazing. So it's great to see that. I think that our proclamations, I really appreciated those. And I love the public comment from the two women from the Buffalo Soldier event. I actually went last year on Labor Day, and it was pretty amazing. It was a lot to learn, and plus you got to see some really good baseball. So I think that was just an awesome event, and looking forward to that again this year. And I'm also looking forward to the farmer's market tomorrow. I hope it's not too horrible with the weather. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Boki.
Thank you, Mayor. So Friday started out with a SHAPE meeting, South Sound Housing Affordability Group, and we approved the 2024-25 work plan and also the budget, and the fees will remain the same. There was some discussion about changing the fee structure, but it was very late in the program, and several of the smaller cities just said we cannot afford anymore, even if it would only mean literally a few $100s. And even for us, the proposal actually was that someone put an amendment forward with a 2% increase, and it failed. And just so you know, I voted with the smaller cities to just keep it as it is. I think we do need to have a fund balance policy, because there's a fairly healthy fund balance right now. And I think if we came up with a policy, then it would start to set in motion maybe small increases every year. But at least for this coming 12 months, we're fine with what we've proposed and using about $50,000 of fund balance. The work plan is, I think, good. I do worry that SHAPE is still trying to find its way, but it is a lot about assistance to especially the smaller cities in trying to work with low-income housing and those kind of things. And I think everyone recognizes that I mean, we have good staff to help us here, but they just don't have that ability to hire that staff. And so, and then we are looking forward to the tax exemption seminar, tax seminar for property taxes, because the rules have changed. They're much more generous for low-income people and veterans than it's been in the past. Then in the afternoon, the ribbon cutting at the Chambers Creek Canyon. Mayor's remarks were very nice. Another step forward, I guess, in a 3-phase plan to really, and then ending eventually with the another bridge being redone. So hopefully this time there'll be a few more actors involved. And but this one will get us to the next pedestrian bridge, which will be phase 3. And really looking forward to that. It was a gorgeous day, and the creek is beautiful down there. And kudos to really everybody who's kind of kept their shoulder to the wheel to get this thing done. And I think there's a lot of support for trails. Dancing in the Streets Saturday night was a wonderful event. Colonial Center showed out very well, I think. I'm amazed. I mean, it was actually hard to find a parking spot. You know, I had to drive around a little bit. Hard. Okay, let's be hard by our standards, not hard by a lot of other standards. And I found a spot and I walked over there, but it really never does seem crowded, even though it was a very nice crowd and the music was good and there was good participation from groups, and really do appreciate the work that our staff put into that event. The rain came up a little bit, and so in fact, before I got there, so some of the people left, and of course it scared the mayor off completely.
Yeah, it did. Exactly.
And then Planning Commission Wednesday night, and they're just about all things comprehensive plan. So as they work through their comprehensive plan, so maybe I'll have some comments next week. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yes, kudos to staff tonight on the presentation, certainly, and the Steilacoom Bridge overview and the options presented, much appreciated. And we look forward to getting that information out in an encapsulated form to the public. I know we talked a little bit about that today, so we can get the folks to understand the genesis of the issue and the outcome of the recommendation. That would be good. On Thursday, I met with kind of an impromptu delegation from Kenya that came at the behest of a Rotary member who had an audience with these folks. They're here on a trade delegation, cultural delegation, effectively the equivalent of their county executive was here from that particular county in Kenya, and he brought an entourage with him, and they were visiting various cities in the South Puget Sound, including Lakewood. So they would love to kind of follow up and see how we might strengthen ties. Maybe it leads to a friendship city, who knows? But they were just lovely people, and they would like to come back and at least have a further conversation about economic development activities. So I'm going to try to connect them with the Economic Development Board director and some of the folks in Pierce County when they come back. And then Friday, I had a meeting with the Consul General from Japan, who's now stationed in Seattle, Consul General Iori. Again, very wonderful chance to meet with a very nice gentleman who's working hard to help Japanese nationals here living in the area, and certainly working to create relationships with the cities in the South Sound, including Lakewood. So he would like to make a follow-up visit as well. And we already have a sister city with Okinawa, so we're already kind of there with Japan, but he was appreciative to see some of the memorabilia in our case over there in the lobby. And then later that afternoon, I did go to the Chambers Creek Phase 2 grand opening. It was well done. Again, kudos to our park staff and city leadership for being a good regional partner along with University Place and Pierce County and putting that together. It is a wonderful area. Really is going to impact generations to come, including those of us who like to get out and enjoy nature. So wonderful thing for the city to do. That's all I have except for the things that are going on this week. I am sorry I missed Dancing in the Streets on Saturday night. After participating in a 52-mile relay race from Rainier to Ruston with 3 other guys, there was no room for dancing for these legs. They were pretty done at that point. So thank you for those of you who did go and enjoy it. And I look forward to the other events coming up this week. Any further alibis for the good of the order? If not, we beat the 9 o'clock hour. We're adjourned.